Thank you, everybody. And we are back in regular session. And I would like to go to the adoption of the agenda and minutes, which were sent to you previously. Is there a motion for adoption?
So
This is
moved.
Louise Lucas. So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Lucas. Is there a second?
Second.
Delegate Cole seconded. All in favor, say aye. All right.
Aye.
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 See,
Aye.
everybody feel awake. Thank you so much. Before I turn it over for the treasurer's report, we do have one in-person special guest. Is he still with us? All right, well, we will come back to that in a minute. Barbara Clear with a great treasurer's report. So I will turn it over to you, Barbara.
I hope everyone thinks it's great. Good evening again. The Budget Committee, which we've heard a lot of
Barbara,
tonight.
can you speak up?
Pardon?
Okay, Tom's got it, never mind.
Okay. Continued its monthly meetings. We've been doing this for 8 years now and had a special meeting to meet with staff to start the review and to provide input to the 2022 budget, as I mentioned earlier. Elise Vess, our COO, continues to be a superb fiscal manager of DPVA expenses, revenue, and the always filing the state and federal reports on time. We have not had one inquiry about our report since she's been on board. She will, I guess, are we doing the basic review of the budget that Elise will do, or will Andrew do it?
Not yet, Barbara.
Not yet. Well, I know that. I'll just eliminate that sentence. Despite our reversals on November 2nd, I have full faith in the DPVA staff to keep us afloat as we weather this storm. They have done an amazing job during the 2 years of the pandemic, and I know they will be able to adroitly pivot when needed. The report for the fourth quarter of 2021 is we had total income of $530,000, and that was under budget of $128,000. We had, that was total expenses. We had total revenue of $548,000, and we were under $138,000 for revenue. But that does leave us with cash on hand of $69,000. And Madam Chair, I will file the report with Mr. Secretary.
I see it. This is why I need Ricardo here for the tech help at first. Barbara, thank you for that great report and appreciate you so much. Hey, I don't really have a report. I got a few things a little more thought out to say tomorrow, but I do have a couple comments and kind of hope I can get through them. We've been doing a lot of this week on the trail, but I'm sitting here and gosh, I've gone down so many campaigns with you guys over the years, and I really, talked to Terry this week, and you know what his first question to me was how's the staff? How are they doing? And I'm like, Governor, I got a pretty resilient bunch here. They've been through a lot. We've had some great years, but they've been challenging years, and they have never once blinked. They didn't go to a corner and curl up in a fetal position. They showed up every day and did their job, and that's where they are now. So if you get a chance, let staff know how much you appreciate them, because I sure do. And it's the greatest state party staff in the country. And sitting here looking at, Delegate Cole and thinking about, how close he came and how just daggone difficult that is. And hope you'll be coming back, Delegate Cole, because we really want to get you across the finish line. And those heartbreaks. I mean, they really hurt. And Sandra Brandt down there working her heart out on something that was, it's just something that's just so hard to get around your head. How somebody as amazing as Nancy Guy who's running against somebody who represents
say that.
insurrectionists, and that's just, I don't know what's going on in the world, out there. But Andrew, I'll say, talked me into doing this. Came up with this idea doing this debrief tour, and it was a good idea. I mean, again, they have great ideas, and we've, it was really, really great. Gary, I'm sorry. I know you had a law firm, a loss of a law firm former member, and couldn't come out and meet us at one of the stops, but it was both like really out there, really invigorating and helpful, but gut-wrenching too. Just gut-wrenching to hear the stories of these just dedicated Democrats who show up every day and, just have great ideas and want to help, and, get called baby killers, at the polls and stuff like that. So I don't really have, yeah, I don't really have like a script here, but just to say, I mean, I just, people drove for like, 2 hours to come and meet with us, to, share their stories and to talk about what they went through, but also to talk about how to move forward, what we do and how to move forward. And look, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy here in Virginia. It's not going to be easy across the country, for us. But, I know we all got to stay focused. And I just, here to say, to thank you all for your friendship, for your partnership, and for what you do every day. So that's basically really it. And I'm still a proud Virginia Democrat. So with that, I will turn it over to our wonderful executive director, who drives like a maniac. Took me to the Dip Dog in Chilhowie. So if you've never been to the Dip Dog, I'm sure Isaac Sarver have. I will tell you, it is an experience that you will never forget. And so, Andrew, over to you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I don't have a ton of things to say either. I do want to kind of talk about just really quick about these listening tours that we've been on, and talking to a bunch of Democratic committees across the Commonwealth, and say that it has been, echoing what Susan said, and just to mention where we've been in the last couple of days, because it's a long ways. We've hit in 2.5 days Farmville, Abingdon, Lebanon, Dublin, Roanoke, Lynchburg, Waynesboro, Harrisonburg, Culpeper. Next week we go down out Galen and Sandra's and Senator Lucas's way, and with Delegate Jenkins, and we're having a bunch of conversations out there. We're going across the water to the shore, and talking to our Democrats on the shore. And then down to with Silene and a bunch of Democrats in the South Side, and then up in the Northern Neck and up in Northern Virginia. So we're not done. We've got a lot more work to do, and we're not taking these couple of weeks, even though it's between holidays and everybody just wants to try to lose the weight that you gained from Thanksgiving to Christmas. We are certainly putting the pedal to the metal, and we're excited to continue to talk about 2021. But then, as Susan said, how we can get better. And let me tell you, there's some ideas out there that are amazing. And Galen and I talk about them on the car ride plenty of times, about how we can, and what the services that we can provide. And you're going to hear about it a little bit, because I think staff are going to talk to you about the incredible work that they have done and they're getting ready to do. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to staff to present their updates. Brenner, do you want to kick us off here?
Hey, everybody. Let me just start by saying that this was quite a novel year in a lot of ways in the Data Department, in terms of the extent in which we worked with the absentee voting. So I really, and want to thank Katie, who is not on the call tonight, but is recovering from a booster shot. And so that we did a lot of work, daily work from the 45 days out, and before that, preparing for the absentee vote. We learned a lot in terms of how we're collecting the data. Of course, we had the advantage of some new laws that passed and extensions and such. So, and the file changed a lot in that way, that we have more information on it because of our legislature. So, those were all good things we hope aren't rolled back, but we're going to look at that and be watching that. it actually brought us into a new area in terms of how we run these elections, especially in the last month or two. So I just want to go with saying that this was a tremendous effort we made this year, and we had a lot of cooperation and work, and I think it worked really well. But it's going to be something we'll continue for sure, the way things are going. So also want to say a few things about, we collected a lot of information this year. The question comes out for a lot of folks, and we've been telling them as they come into us that this data that we have each election year is made available. We make an effort to make this available to all the local committees and folks down ticket. It takes us some time to translate that information, put it back into the right format so everybody can see it, but survey questions and IDs that were collected this year, and they go into the scores and the models that we create for this year that are available to everybody. So just to be able to do that, it's like that is our purpose and always has been our purpose, to make sure we distribute this information that comes in bulk in these years and make sure it continues to be available. It's and maximize these resources we get every year. So we'll continue on that. Stay tuned for that. We'll have more information on that. We've also wrapped down a lot of the campaigns that were this year. For those that have had candidates that will likely come back, we let them know that their van accounts and such, they may be dormant for a while, but we do not leave anything behind. Those are ready to be turned back on when they're back in running again in the next session. So we are, those are some of the questions we're handling. We're looking forward to next year to working with, obviously we got redistricting. I know there's some new census data that is now becoming available to us that we'll be able to hook into that once we have, the information on the lines. So we're watching that very carefully, seeing what new data sets are in there, because we got to be ready, in my past experience, that a lot of times the actual lines and getting these districts doesn't come down from the state because the registrars have to modify the data. So we sometimes have to jump in there and create sort of lines to be interpreted lines that we have from the legislation and put that in Vote Builder so that's available for our candidates. So, we plan for that. We hope, we're trying to be as, look ahead as much as we can for that, anticipating, some elections on that and redistricting, as well as the other things we need to know for that for our congressionals this year. And moving on to that, our congressionals, we are starting to onboard those, and we're excited about this process. Just glad to be back, going again. That's the best way to forget about losses, is really to dive back in. And so there's no break for that. And so I think we're happy working toward that. So please let us know, call Katie or I anytime if you guys have any questions on data or any concerns you're hearing. Let us know about what's going on out there. We're anxious to hear and help.
Awesome. Thanks, Brenner. Nick with Digital.
Hey, y'all. Short update for me. Fundraising on the email program went very, very well in October, and understandably has died down in November. But we have hit our goal for the quarter because October was so good for us. Moving forward, we are exploring options for list building, updating, revamping our email program, and we're working on a couple different digital trainings that I think Jara is going to talk about in her section.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Elise.
There, everybody. I want to give a quick update. First off, I want to introduce you all, or reintroduce you to Christy Glass. She has joined our operations team as the operations director. Christy, do you want to give a quick intro?
Hiya. Sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I'm actually with the Chesterfield Dens tonight, helping them set up for their fundraiser tomorrow. So I am happy to be joining the team. I spent most of my career at Capital One in operations. And then after 2016, decided I just couldn't talk about credit cards anymore and decided to jump into politics. So I've worked on a number of campaigns, Larry Barnett, Delegate Guzman, Delegate Carr. I did a stint on the coordinated last year in operations, which is what led me to Elise this year. And I have been here since September, primarily supporting the coordinated in their HR functions. And now I will be transitioning to helping support Elise with some much needed bandwidth. So going into 2022, excited to be here and helping.
Yay, Christy.
Real quick, I have to say, Elise went offline unexpected for a week this year, and it like the whole world fell to its knees at DPVA. We are really happy to have Christy, and Elise is even happier. So, Christy.
They're all truths. So since we last saw you all, the operations team has filed 2 FEC reports and 1 non-federal compliance report. We've managed the payroll and benefits for all of our employees and oversaw the offboarding of the coordinated staff. As Barbara mentioned so kindly, we ensured timely budgetary updates of all of our revenue and expenses and continue to hold those monthly budget committee meetings. And then we've been working with the finance and executive team to build out our 2022 finance plan that you'll be seeing shortly.
Awesome. Thanks, Elise. I'm going to turn it over to Sham and Jack for Team Political. I do want to say Jack's Penske van has been replaced, and now he is driving me around the state in a Prius. So we've gone from one extreme to the other. So I'm coming to a debrief stop near you in a Prius instead of a Penske van. So Sham, Jack.
The political team is carbon neutral. That's the goal. Hey everybody, welcome to our first hybrid meeting. This is exciting. Mostly for the last quarter, as you all know, like when we get to September and October, direct mail really takes up a huge amount of our time. So we did that, and as that kind of came to an end, Jack and I had the best experience of our life staffing and advancing a bus tour. And those are moments that I'll never forget, no matter how hard I try. But it was great to see a lot of you as we kind of got around on the bus, and just being helpful and plugging in holes wherever we possibly could.
Hey everybody. So yeah, been driving in the Prius. So shout out to my girlfriend Bridget for letting me use her Prius because it's not even mine. But yeah, so it's a good meeting where this is the first time to mention yard signs. So we finished out the year with all of the yard signs we could. Helped out with the big Sunday voting events all over the state and some of the larger campaign events for the ticket, which was a great time. Also, talking the same thing about the Southside bus tour, taking Susan and the crew home to meet my parents was always a good time. But a good time doing logistics on the listening tour. If anybody's got any folks who want to add a stop or have a meeting that Andrew would love to go to, feel free to reach out to me via email or cell phone number. Also, we'll be working on updating the chair's handbook in the next couple months as we reorg as well, and then taking the information from the listening tour and using it and making changes. So thank you.
Awesome. I do want to mention, Maureen mentioned something here. Jack also got an appointment. Maureen, do you want to unmute yourself and brag on Jack a little bit?
Yes, I absolutely do. Jack, who is the Virginia Young Dems Central Region Chair, which is like the Richmond region, and a member of our Metro Richmond Young Dems, has been appointed by the Young Democrats of America as the National Finance Director for the Young Dems, which also means he chairs the National Young Dems Budget Committee. So that is a huge freaking congratulations. We actually have 3 national appointments. I put them in our in my Young Dems email update that I've been doing quarterly, but we've also got Matt Royer of Arlington County, who is going to be the National Communications Director, and then Mike Heminger, who is the Rules Committee Secretary. And so that's huge. Virginia, I mean, we're a larger-ish state, but I think it really speaks to the fact that the Virginia Young Dems are wildly organized relative to a lot of other states, and the strength of getting 3 really, really big, important appointments shows that people trust us and people know that we've got our shit together.
Damn straight. A team
I
in their-
just wanted
for you.
to, as a former YDA president, issue my condolences as well.
That's awesome. Jara with training.
Hello, congratulations, Jack, as a former Young Democrats executive member. Good luck. Good luck. That's all I've got to say. Happily in Shady Acres retirement home and enjoying it every bit. So with
Golden
training,
Girls reference and everything, Jara, I love it.
like it's been a struggle. So with training for this quarter, I wanted to put our efforts into trying to get us across the finish line. So we completed our Blue Commonwealth Summit, which intended to be a larger event. It was supposed to be in person. It was not. So we took it online. We refocused and did 4 different trainings on reorg, redistricting, GOTV, et cetera. We wrapped our, we also had another training with NDRC on redistricting as well. And then we partnered with the House Democratic Caucus to do a GOTV training with the campaign managers. And finally, we helped support Souls to the Polls in Loudoun and Alexandria. And then for the final 2 weeks heading into the election, we kind of, I keep saying we, but I feel like it's a team effort. So I'm not comfortable saying that like I did. But we were able to support the ballot cure chase as well. Definitely did not have what we expected for November 2nd, but I am not a person who knows how to remain in a fetal position for too long. So we really began to think about what we can do, taking in feedback and how we can grow the training program. So I'm happy to kind of roll out some things that we're doing, including a committee orientation in January. We are launching what's being called, right now the name is the Blue Commonwealth Institute, which will house our entire training program. We now have a training page that's been added to the DPVA website. We have, we are going to launch a training inbox in addition to 2 different academies that are going to launch in Q1. The first will be a candidate campaign academy. That will be an 8-week course, a digital academy that's going to be working with our digital team and some other really fun initiatives. That is my update.
That's all, Jara? That's awesome. Jara has been working around the clock and she does great work. And so shout out to Jara for all of that incredible stuff.
And Jara came down to Virginia Beach and did an incredible job with her Souls to the Polls. Wonderful. Great.
Carrie, Randy with Team Finance.
Hey guys, good to see some of you in person. This is actually for both of us, I think, our first semi-in-person steering committee meeting, so exciting.
Newly engaged Carrie Hamilton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So since our last meeting, I guess our last meeting was the weekend of the gala, despite having to change it significantly this year, it still kind of went off without a hitch as much as we could have. You know, little couple of technical difficulties, but really it went as well as we could have hoped. And it actually was more successful financially than the gala normally is. So I think we can definitely count that as a win, although hopefully next year we can be together all in person. And then our other event this quarter was our annual Army Navy fundraiser. I want to give a big shout out to Bob Haley for hosting us again this year. The event was again a successful one and we had a great time there. We've continued our direct mail solicitation program with the new partners group, and it's been really successful this year, and we're looking at how we can continue and expand that next year. And then since the election, of course, we've been making a lot of changes to our plans for next year. and working with the operations and executive team on building out the budget and finance plan. Randy, am I missing anything?
Not overall. I really do want to thank everybody who was able to chip in, especially district leaders for BCG as we had to change it to a more virtual setting. But I really want to give a shout out to all of y'all who were able to pitch in and help with that. I had a great time running behind the scenes. I got to put my theater work for BCG back in the work. So I want to thank y'all for that a lot.
Amazing. Thanks, Carrie and Randy. Amazing job as always. Kiana with special projects.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see everyone virtually and in person. This is also my first steering hybrid situation. So what I've been working on is I've helped Elise with the payroll and hours for the DPVA fellowship program. Fun times. It was my favorite thing this year. Also assisted with the logistics and execution of the Loudoun and Alexandria Social Pole events, kind of doing the behind the scenes with food and catering and event spaces and things like that, helping out our committee leaders with that. Randy and I had a great time in Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads, helping out with the ballot care process. Thank you for those who also helped out with that. Great. We did all that we could, even though the results weren't in our favor. I'm glad we were able to help a lot of people out there. And I assisted with the logistics and execution of the Blue Commonwealth Summit and other training programs with Jara Butler, our amazing training director, helping her out with all the trainings that she's been doing with communication and outreach and things like that. Managing Susan's schedule, which can get a little challenging sometimes, but we're making it through and we're doing great. Occasionally handling out Andrew's calendar as well. You know how that looks right now. And lastly, I'm managing our internship program and thinking of ways to engage more young people with the internship program virtually. So that's my update.
Awesome. Definitely the hardest job is managing Sweat's calendar, and we can have a off the record conversation. Jace, if you're on with communications.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello, everyone. We transitioned from our campaign operations and supporting our statewide candidates and down ballot candidates, transitioned from that to a more traditional comms operation that is centered and focused on the DPVA as a whole. Manuel Bonder, who has been with us over the past year as the DGA embed, ended his role, and we are grateful for him and all the hard work that he did this past year. With our political team, we worked to set up this our debrief tour, and we launched that this week. As you've heard, that is continuing into next week, and we will end that with a press conference with Andrew and Susan. And then we were working hard to map out the upcoming inauguration, the legislative session, the competitive House races that we have in Virginia, and our comm strategy around that. So that is what we're doing moving forward, and that's all I have.
Awesome, thanks, Jason. I do want to say, go ahead, Atima. Sorry.
I just had a quick question. Do we need to approve the director of operations at this meeting? I don't know if that's a point of order that we need to do or before the meeting closes.
Yes, we do. I need to get really quickly. Let me just say one thing. Jaskata she always transitions on and off the coordinator. So Jaskata is starting back with the party, and so shout out to her. I don't know if she's on, but she will be back with us for Q1 and will start the important work of that process as well, helping the get the voter protection efforts off the ground for our congressional, so potentially again our House delegate campaigns. So
I'm here, Andrew.
Go ahead, Jaskata. You have anything?
Yeah, so good evening and happy Friday. I do hope that everyone was able to enjoy their Thanksgiving. I first would like to thank everyone for their tireless efforts and really making our Commonwealth better each and every day. Kind of as Margot alluded to earlier, elections certainly have consequences. And, you know, although we didn't get the results that we hoped for, we didn't stop at anything. And so to that note, I'm really happy to report that we hosted over 40 training sessions, trained over 700 people for the election. And on election day, we had over 600 poll observers in the field. Of course, working with the general registrars, electoral board members, and, you know, getting early voting sites. We did have over 20 localities participate in Sunday voting, and Gayleen gained the alias of the Sunday voting stalker. So big shout out to her. I call her that now. In addition to that, we staffed the hotline for the early voting period, and on election day, we received over 1,000 phone calls. Lastly, we are planning right now for the 2022 election and everything, but Nick and Kiana did celebrate birthdays this week, so please wish them a happy belated when you get the chance. Thank you.
Scotta makes me look bad every single time she gives a report.
Yes, Christy Glass, we did go through the, not to put her on the spot, Christy, but you know, back in the old days, you know, we had in-person meetings, we had kind of a little hazing thing for the new employees. We're gonna put you through a thing, but she did go through the, we did go through the appropriate vetting and requirement and all that. But I would like to ask for a motion to approve Christy Glass as direct in the operations department.
So moved.
Matt Rowe moved. Eric Payne seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Christy, you got to pass. Welcome officially on board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're on to general business, and we have a party plan amendment that I will actually call on Mark Bukowski to go
Excuse
over.
me.
Yes.
Hi, this is EJ. I have my hand raised and I just have a question.
EJ, I'm so sorry. Yes,
Not
ma'am.
a problem. I just had a question for Giscata. And first of all, Giscata, your mother was one of my sold to the polls people. So I thank her for that. And but I wanted to know, with the current situation, have we put together a strategy for how we can increase the number of polls that are open on Sunday for the 2022?
So that's in progress right now, EJ.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. And so Mark Bukowski, I'm going to turn it over to you to discuss this party plan amendment, please.
Yeah, sure. So this one's actually really, really simple. The one thing that we are proposing to change in the party plan is to basically turn by default the method of nomination for the House of Representatives to a primary. You know, we went through this with the General Assembly races last year, and so this is just consistent with the other change that we made in the, you know, if for whatever reason, you know, somebody does not file, there still is the opportunity for conventions or caucuses, or of course, if there's a special election and a primary is not possible, then a district committee would still have the ability to nominate their candidate by some other means, whether that be convention or caucus. So
I have a question, Mark.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that when there's not time for a caucus, that a district committee can nominate a candidate, because a caucus requires notice and, you know, getting people there. And sometimes you've been trying to recruit a candidate and you get to 3 days before the deadline or 2 days and somebody pops up, and then the only way to resolve it is have the district committee in an emergency meeting nominate. So I just want to make sure that default still exists, because unfortunately in the old days of the 7th, before we got the most wondrous congressperson in the world, that used to happen to us.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's consistent with what we've done previously.
Okay.
So I don't see anything like that changing.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, do we want to?
Or is there, yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt the amendment.
And I second it.
All right,
All
we
right.
have,
All those
Solene
in favor?
motion and
Sorry.
who seconded?
Margot.
Sam,
Margot
oh, Margot,
seconded.
either one.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, it is adopted. And now I'm going to turn it over on the regards to the reorganization framework that I know everybody is looking so much forward to. I'm going to turn it over to Sham to run through that framework for the Central Committee reorg.
Hey everybody, give me one sec to share my screen quick. So there are really three main parts of it. There's a general timeline. Tomorrow would be the day that Central kind of adopts this framework. We set a kind of a deadline of January 15th for congressional district committees to issue their calls to convention, which would include provisions for when local caucuses would be, and then 3 weekends where congressional district conventions will be, as we've done for similar processes in the past. And then we set our Q1 date for March 18th and 19th. And at the moment, we are, no one knows where we're going to be in 2 weeks, let alone 4 months, but we do have options down below that got sent to everybody on pages 2 and 3 for proposed rules if we're virtual and proposed rules if we're in person, for how those elections are going to go. The other thing that we have in there is a delegate allocation for the congressional district conventions, as has been done in the past. I'm sorry, I'm trying to zoom in here and it's just not letting me. Because they are conventions and to have equal representation or proportional representation for localities within each district, we do have to adopt a breakdown of delegates. As all of you know, we do not have new lines, so it's really tough to do a delegate allocation on congressional districts that don't exist yet. So what our thought process was is we would give you the 2017 allocations, the different formulas and what those look like, and then let you all decide which formula you would like to use, with the understanding that as soon as we got lines, we would provide those formulas to you in the timeliest of manners as possible. I'm happy to take questions on it. Otherwise, really the only 2 things to vote on are adopting the framework and picking a formula. Sorry, I can't
John,
see.
this is Margot. Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me stop the screen share just so we can see if there are hands up. Margot, go ahead.
Yes. Do you have any idea when these numbers will be available?
No. I don't think any of us know when we're going to get the House and Senate lines, let alone the congressional ones. We're going to, unfortunately, no. We're just going to have to be flexible on this one.
So is there a backup if they're not available by the 15th? Because we need them to write our calls. Some of us.
And that brings forward another question. Are you going to be preparing the call?
No, congressional district committees will be preparing the call, but we can give you a sample. We're really just working on making sure that if we get these on the 14th at midnight, that we have them for you on the 15th to just plug in.
Okay.
Well, are you going to be doing any virtual district conventions? I mean, some of us really need help. We don't have a robust infrastructure technology.
We didn't write down what the specific rules were for individual conventions. I think that's something that each individual congressional district committee and local committees need to decide for what's best for them. I know what may work in CD8 may not work in CD5 or CD9 or CD3. So we generally defer to you and what your committee can do, but we're happy to be a resource to all of you. There's a reason why we wanted to separate these into 3 weekends, and that's so that staff can be available to help administer or facilitate any of these processes.
Sean, this is Sean. I'm sorry.
I was just going to reiterate what I'm sure everyone here knows, which is we have to divide delegates by localities for our district conventions. So we absolutely are going to need the lines and the numbers. And moreover, I can't speak for anyone else, but in our district, we have allocated the 20 seats by localities proportionate to their representation in the district. So I just want to we can't have a call to convention unless we've gotten the numbers and had time to digest them and figure out what is a fair distribution of seats in the CD committee. So I hope the court is moving quickly, but I think we need a backup to make sure everyone has time.
Abby, do you think it'd be worthwhile on the January 15th date, to include a January 15th or as soon as possible? And we can just move that at Central tomorrow and have them adopt it that way.
That makes me happy.
I think Gary was unmuted, and then Matt and Barbara.
Sean, I essentially have the same question. What do we do if we don't know the numbers by January the 15th? And if we don't know the district lines by then, what do we do?
I think, Abby, the solution's going to be just to add in a clause that, or as soon as possible, if there are no lines. And I can wordsmith something and add it to there for folks for tomorrow.
Let me just say this too. I think that this is probably going to be one of those things that, if depending on the process, the timeline, et cetera, that we might have to have like further conversations about, just like we have with, we've pivoted and have been flexible with the entire, pandemic situation. And so if we think that we need to kind of come back and have another conversation with, CD chairs in particular, we're happy to do that, and we can do it, at any point in time moving forward here. So I just wanted to put that in.
And if I don't know if this is true, but there's rumor out there, and you guys probably know the answer and may not be able to say it, that depending on the lines, we might even go to court, or presumably the Republicans could go to court. So we need some flexibility in this to allow us to act if all that happens. It may be that the present Central Committee has to keep functioning until a court case is resolved. So,
yep, that's true.
I think it's important to build that into. I follow up on that with exactly what Abby has said.
Okay, I will.
Because I'm very nervous about this whole thing now. And I'm very worried too.
And we can work specifically with the 8th to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
I have like a general procedural question, I think, but I don't know where I am in the order. So just tell me where I am.
Matt, then Barbara, then we'll go to
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I just had a procedure clarification question. So the responsibility for putting out the call to convention and deciding when and where to do that falls to the reconstituted. So like, for instance,
can anyone hear me?
That falls to the current Congressional District Committee. So you will write the rules for, like, similar to what happened in 2017, the old first CD wrote the rules for how the next district committee would be elected. It's like what a local committee does right now. They vote on the rules and the process for reorg that a new committee will be voted in on.
but if you have the new lines and potentially you have a district moving across the state or something like that, who actually puts that together then?
It'll be what number district, because we're not getting a new one. And I think that's the best way for us to do that. Hopefully this is the only time we ever have to do this, because in future decades, this will all be done in the early parts of the gubernatorial year, or we shouldn't have to do this again. Barbara, you're next.
Yeah, we've been through this before. I can't remember which census, but we did not have the lines. And we had our our caucuses and our conventions, whatever, and elected the central committee based on the current lines. And then once we got the lines, if you were already elected to central committee, you were automatically moved to your new district. Some districts did go over 20. Some districts were under 20. And if you were under, you were allowed to elect new members. If you were over 20, you merely waited for attrition to get you back to 20. And I don't know if that can be part of the call that we just move forward.
That is what
And-
happens. I think the idea 12 months ago was to avoid that situation because of how complicated that is to actually facilitate. But if that's where we're at, then that's just the direction we're going to have to go to make it work. I'm really looking forward to doing voting on Zoom and telling people that each of their vote is like 0.8 of a vote, and tracking that. And we're going to do a lot of unanimous consent.
But I guess we'll know by the 15th or soon after if we're going to court.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Fatima and then Bob.
Yeah, this is just a.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Tom.
Bob, I think we got Fatima first, and then you.
Okay, go ahead, Tima.
Okay. Yes. So just so I think I'm clear on like sort of the timeline and what's complicating some of traditional reorg for us is that we've got these masters who need to decide the maps. Supreme Court of Virginia given them a deadline, I think by the December 20th, end of December, to get it together. And in theory, we should have something approved by January 1, knowing that like probably there'll be some disagreement scuttlebutt. I imagine some districts, like we could, is there a timeline as to how long it could take in courts, or we're just like out in like a black hole of we don't know after January 15th? Okay. So we need to have just a reorg based on the old lines. And then after, whenever we get the new maps, I'm sure that there will obviously be readjustment. We then hold a reorg again just to understand how that would work.
No, there would be proportional votes. So you would have to weight individual members' votes, which is wildly complicated. And we would just continue down this process.
Can I just move we accept this framework with the addition of putting in, or as soon as possible thereafter, that maximizes the flexibility, and there's really nothing else we can do till the Supreme Court acts. So I would move we accept it with Sham's proposed amendment.
I'll second that.
I think we have a motion and Matt just seconded it. Well, I need a gavel. This is exciting.
Can I just make a comment? I think that all of this is extremely confusing to a lot of people who will be in the party. The people in this room have discussed this now. I don't even think that going to training helps some of them because they're confused about the local. Then you get to the congressional district. There's yet the local, you're electing people. You have a full vote. You get into this, there are all these different pieces that are there. I find this very confusing for new people.
Margo, if I can just speak to that really quick, I think that what we need to do is, I think Abby's suggestion is probably the best one. We need to like put one step in front of the other. We know that we can do our local reorgs. We can help them. We as a steering committee have navigated very complicated issues in the past. If for some reason timeline seems to be off kilter or a different thing than or like delayed unnecessarily in the time that's post January 15th, we can come back before that and we can kind of figure that out. We have we still have the ability to figure out that timeline. We still can work with the House and Senate leadership to make sure that we have that ability. I think that that's probably really the only option here. And just as a steering committee, help the local individual committees with their reorganization process. And then as we get more clarity, we can continue to talk and communicate amongst ourselves and other CD chairs to make sure that we are having a process that is the most simple and that's the easiest to follow. I agree with you, though, by the way, Margot. I think it is very confusing and it's not simple, but I don't think that there's another solution, in front of us right now.
I think I'm next. Let me just make a couple of comments here. We've got a motion to accept what I characterize as a tentative timeline. And I don't know whether I heard a second or not, but
I think there's been a second, Bob. So if there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
The motion on the floor is to accept.
My comments as discussion then.
All right.
And so that tentative timeline, I'm fine with that. Yeah, and I think that should be recommended tomorrow to Central. And then the other thing I think that Chom is asking for is a selection of the formula.
Exactly.
So those are.
We're going to do that next, okay?
Okay, all right. And I'll just say that I'm an advocate of Formula C. So thank you.
Can we just adopt the framework right now? Then is there any other discussion? Barbara, do you mean to have your hand up?
No, just didn't go
Okay.
there.
All right, Isaac.
So this is just a point of inquiry, and it is on the motion. If we're saying, as soon as practical, essentially, that we'll get the cost of convention issued, I think this is on me. I will speak louder. If it pushes back so far that we're approaching the Q1 meeting, my question becomes, how does that interplay with the party plan? Because I know we previously had we had previously amended the plan to shift officer elections back. And so I guess what I'm getting at is, again,
Isaac, I love you. It's December. Let's ask those questions in January.
I mean, I think it's a good question though. As much as we all have headaches at this point, I'm wondering if it's process we need to discuss.
We can't answer right now. We are in the unknown abyss right here.
No, I totally think we cannot definitively answer it, but should we have a tentative plan B for if we go into the abyss?
I think the plan is to reconvene and discuss the best options, because where we're at in 2 weeks, we don't know where we're going to be at then. We don't know where we're going to be at in 45 days, let alone 2 months.
I mean, it's good to have the list. What ifs. Okay, so all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Okay.
Opposed.
Now, is somebody opposed?
Yes,
Mark?
I was.
Okay. Now, what are we doing next? Because I'm confused.
So next
I
would
think
be
Bob's going to make a motion to put Formula C on the floor.
Right.
Bob, you're muted.
Yeah, go ahead and consider that my motion, Formula C.
Why Formula C?
Well, I like the way it reads, the equal weights that it gives to the Democratic vote in what I consider the most recent statewide elections, and I like it because it's I like for my own viewpoint for Congressional District 11, that's the one that gives us the most votes of any of the formulas. And that's only because I just think that in the 11th, which is Fairfax, Prince William, and Fairfax City, the interest there will be so great that I want a high number to accommodate all the people that want to be delegates. Other than that,
Can I just mention one thing on that? Because this doesn't end with all the delegates coming together for a state convention. All this is how you're going to proportionately allocate these at your CD conventions. and it doesn't really weight one CD over another in any way. What we do is we create a proportion for each locality within the districts, and we just apply the number from a traditional state convention. If you want to have more or less delegates, that's entirely up to the CD committees. We're just giving you a formula that you can use for that.
Right, is there a second? We have to get a second. to the motion, right?
There was no second to the motion that I heard.
I'll second it.
All right, discussion?
Susan?
Wait, Sham, can you say what you said again? I think I missed parts of it.
Yeah, so in a state convention year, this allocation would typically pit congressional district versus congressional district. We don't have that this year. All we're creating is the proportion for congressional districts to allocate their CD convention delegates. Those folks are going to elect 20 members of the central committee, regardless of what congressional district. And so the number that, like the nominal number that each congressional district is allocated doesn't actually translate to more or less votes. It's just a formula.
So Sham, does that mean that if the C is given a certain number to the 8th or to the 11th and we wanted to add more delegates, we could? Or are you still stuck with the same number of delegates?
You could do a 2,000 person congressional district convention or a
No, Margot.
No, I mean, it's already difficult to work with schools, and I see this as very, very scary. But that's just me.
Maybe I could do the opposite and set it down to 12 people.
Okay, Zach.
This is kind of a overly, this might be an overly technical in the weeds question, but since I'm just looking at this and the breakdown is for C is governor, U.S. senator, and U.S. president, and as we know, those elections, the cap numbers are all kind of kablooey. Did we ever come up with a formula for reallocating those or correcting those, or what kind of technical fix we're going to use, or what? Because I feel like we had that conversation at one point and didn't really have an answer.
Maybe we will have no split localities. Haha.
We haven't solved that specifically yet, but we are going to work with the DNC data team, because this is something that's going to come up in 12 months when we have to do the presidential allocation anyway. So that's something that they're going to have to help us take a look at. Matt?
I'm always an advocate for the rural areas, and my district is very large and diverse. And so I know that at least with Formula C, it's going to, in my case, in C1, provide more weight towards classically blue areas versus a lot of the more rural parts of.
Oh, sorry. So Formula A would effectively be the same as Formula C, but also include population, which is how you raise the weight of rural localities.
Okay, well, I was trying to kind of step away from Formula A just because it was a little bit more lopsided the other way. I thought the Formula D would be more in the middle, so that it'd be more of a compromise choice. That's where
You're the voting member.
I was trying to pull it back a little bit. Okay,
You're the voting member.
So that was just one of my suggestions, that maybe Formula D might be more of a compromise choice.
Okay, so. All right, there's a motion. Abby seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, yes, Susan, it's Gary.
Okay, Gary.
Bob, I commend the great job that these Democratic areas in Virginia do for our party and the success that you have had. But I would speak out against C, because I think it's a mistake if we take population out of the equation. I think hopefully we learned some lessons a few weeks ago. And one is that we need a rural strategy, and developing a rural strategy, the worst way to begin that would be to take population out and only have the Democratic vote as the only criteria. I prefer A because I think governor, senator, and president gives us 3 different elections and gives us more diversity in the number of votes. But I think I would prefer A and that population be included. I think that levels the playing field among a lot of different types of communities across Virginia. And I understand we can decide on how many delegates we have at our district convention. It doesn't make any difference. But I do think it makes a difference in principle.
Okay, thank you, Gary. And this is the age-old debate that
Yeah.
we've had for how
Have
many?
it every time, don't we?
Yeah. Okay, are we ready to vote? Is this a roll call vote, or we want to do ayes and nays? Let's try ayes and nays and see how we go. All in favor of the motion of Formula C that Bob Haley presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Okay, it's a roll call. It's a roll call.
Isaac, we need to work you a little bit anyway.
All right, folks, brace yourselves. We'll start with Eric Payne on behalf of Delegate Aird. Aye. Ricardo Alfaro. Ricardo.
Sorry, aye.
All right. We don't have Tyler with us. Sandra Brandt.
Nay.
Is that nay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mark Berklowski.
Nay.
Linda Brooks, or sorry, Dolores.
Aye.
All right. Mark Kennedy.
I'm here. Had to step away for a quick minute. So I really don't know which way to vote on this. Just
Mark, we're voting on the delegate allocation formula. Bob has proposed Formula C, but there's some, I won't give much more context than that. There's some question of which formula folks prefer. If you want to abstain for now, we can. If you don't, or you can pass if you'd like.
I'll pass for now, take another look, and then come back to me, please. Thank you.
Maureen.
Aye.
Delegate Cole. All right. Let's see. Kim Crump. No. Alex.
Aye.
Abby Easter.
Abstain.
All right. V Fry.
Nay.
Delegate Guzman.
Aye.
Bob Haley.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Gary Hancock.
No.
Margot Horner.
Aye.
All right. Julie Hunter. Julie. All right. Sorry, we don't have Delegate Jenkins. Gayleen. Or Clint, are you with us now?
I said aye.
You abstain? Okay. Gayleen.
Kayleen is saying aye.
Okay. Garrick, Kitts.
No.
All right. Barbara Claire.
No.
Dave Lightman.
Nay.
Suzanne Long.
No.
Senator Lucas.
Aye.
Praveen Mahan.
Aye.
Charlene Montgomery. Silene,
Sorry. Nay. Celine says nay.
Fatima, Amara.
Yeah.
All right. Zach Burkowski,
Aye.
Matt Rowe,
Nay.
Maggie Sacra,
Nay.
myself, I'm a nay. EJ Scott,
Aye.
Chairwoman Swecker,
Abstain.
and Clarence Tong.
Nay.
All right. If you'll bear with me a moment. Mark, I should come back to you if you'd like to.
I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
All right. Bear with me one moment while I tally the vote.
Hey, Bob, let me have this while, so I can tell. Yeah.
Susan, I'm getting flashbacks of watching the RPV meetings in the office.
And I guess we got, they got the last laugh on us, but okay, whatever.
We still know Robert Rules of Order better, but whatever.
Hey, well, Isaac is double counting this. This is just a formality because we will actually have to do this tomorrow. So it really is a preliminary. I mean, it doesn't mean, I don't want to say it doesn't mean anything, but you all have been through this before. You ready, Isaac?
Yes, it was incredibly close, but Formula C passed with a yay vote.
What was the vote?
It was 15 yay, 14 nay, and 4 abstentions.
15 yay, 14 nay, and four abstentions. So be prepared to, have this fight. We're all used to it, right? Friendly fight tomorrow. Hey, and so the next that we're up to is the budget. And I apologize to you all, but I want to, I had a long time ago had a personal commitment tonight. So I am going to have to scoot out, but I know that between my first vice chair, Gayleen here, my wing woman, who I will turn the meeting over to, and the staff here at DPVA, that you all will be able to go through the budget and finish up relatively shortly. And I've never had to do this before. Atima, I'm going to address that question. Do not have a tentative date yet because you also, as a member of the DNC, we talked to Maureen Guard at the SDC this week, and we're still waiting to hear for their Q1 winter meeting. And here's what she told me: it'll be in February or March. So I'm trying to wait to get that before we set the date for the March meeting. But but I just want to say I apologize for having to scoot out on you all. But this was something I set with my family a long time ago, and so I will look forward to seeing you all in person or virtually tomorrow. So Gayleen, thank you for helping out here, and I'll turn it over to you.
Madam Chair, this is Louise Lucas. I had just moments before you spoke, I sent Gayleen a message telling her I need to hop off at 8 o'clock also. And tomorrow I am speaking at a funeral, so I will not be available for the meeting tomorrow.
Thank you for being with us, Senator Lucas. You're my hero, and for everything that you have done for us and will do in the future. So
Susan, before you leave, I just want to say something. I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the staff for the work that you all did during this election. I think no one really knows the hard work that goes behind the scenes on what the work that you all have done. I've seen some of our leadership of our party that know the rules and know what the party does and know what the caucuses does, but the party took a hit behind the fall of this election, and you were the core of the whole thing. I mean, of being attacked, and I thought that was very unfair, considering the way that the dynamics of an election goes. And then we know that House caucus run the caucus, no Senate caucus run the Senate caucus, and we know that everyone runs their own campaigns. So I just wanted to say that we really appreciate the work that you have done. I also want to say that to the staff has worked very, very hard. We've had meetings every single week with our local committees. We have major communications. And I think I read an article where they said that the local committees were not being communicated to. I have never seen an election like this one where we have had so much in terms of behind the scenes work, but connections. We're talking to our committees. Andrew, Jack, Sham, all of them went overboard to do the work that needs to be done. And so I think that we need to lift each other up. I want to thank everyone who's on the central committee, the steering committee, but we need to lift everyone up. One of the things I have asked is that we do a serious summit like we did in 2011, bring everybody together, bring everybody to be a part of a subcommittee to start planning this summit to come together. But we need to lift each other up instead of start pointing fingers. We do this every single time when we lose. We did it in 20 when women down won, the same thing. But Susan, it was unfair that you're taking a hit on all of this. And I just want you to know that we appreciate you. I appreciate you. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Galen. I agree. Well said.
Here,
Well
here.
said.
Very well said.
Ditto from Louise Lucas. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you all. I love you all, and I've been around a long time, and I know how this all goes down, but you all have lifted me up, and Galen couldn't have a better partner than you, and a better staff. Thanks.
That's right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Okay. We have the budget next, and someone turn over to Andrew.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So Elise and I are going to go through this. I do want to before we do this, really, I want to thank Chris Little, Doris Kraus Mays, Barbara Clear, and Tyler Bishop. As Doris or as Barbara had said earlier, and as Elise had said, we work pretty hard to make sure that we keep all of them. And we have monthly conversations about this. And so Elise, I don't know if you are able to share your screen, or Sham, if you can empower her exactly how the sharing of the screen is going to work, but we're going to go through that real quick, and we'll be good to go.
Elise, can you share your screen?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Elise, I just made you a co-host.
Okay, cool. I'll do my best, okay? I literally, technology and me. All right, it is 8:04. Here we go. Do you see it?
I got it, Elise.
All right. So looking at our 2021 budget and review, we still have a few weeks to go. I know Barbara mentioned a number about our cash on hand. I just want you all to know that is not our cash on hand. That was cash flow. So our total revenue minus all our total expenses. So we have a little bit more than 69K in our bank account, Barbara. So we're doing okay. Looking forward, going into 2022, we anticipate having $748,209 cash on hand. While November 2nd did not go the way we anticipated, we are going to be in a good financial place to make strong, to have a strong influence in the 2022 election cycle. So a little bit of context here. Every year, the DNC has a SPIF grant, the State Party Innovation Fund. We have been very successful in attaining access to those grants through proposals, and we have not put that in our budget yet because we don't know the structure of that program just yet, but we anticipate being able to depend on those grants. In top lines, we have our total budgeted revenue and expenses listed here. You can see there is a little bit of a budget gap, but going in with such strong cash on hand and knowing that we will be anticipating these SPIF grants, we feel confident that we will be able to close this gap throughout the cycle.
And I do want to mention one thing, Elise, if I can, real quick. On this slide, this is a very pared down version. Obviously, we don't know what elections are happening next year, so there could be more additions. If we have more elections next year, then our revenues and expenditures obviously are going to be tweaking with, this is going to be a fluid thing. So go ahead, Elise.
Going into our revenues, I'm actually going to throw it to our finance team to talk about some of our events scheduled, give a little context there.
Thanks, Elise. So looking at this revenue slide, I'll skip to the events since that's what we're talking about. So this is based on kind of the events that we have traditionally done each year. There's definitely, like Andrew said, room for growth here, but this is kind of the baseline of what we are expecting and projecting based on the events that we typically do. So that includes the gala, that includes some regional events, and a couple others like the Army Navy dinner and so on. So this is kind of a baseline of we built out a schedule of events, and that's what we are projecting with the knowledge that we have right now. Some other lines on here. So we have our van budget coming in there, and that's another one that could change significantly if we do end up having the House of Delegates running again. So that is dependent a lot on what elections are coming up. The Act Blue number there, most of that is coming from our digital team. They've built up a really successful email program that brings us a lot of money. And so we're going to have that. And that's also unsolicited contributions coming in, like from the website and other sources there. The DNC and national programs include, kind of the monthly or quarterly monies that we're getting from different DNC programs. Going down a little bit, the large donors and call time coming in there are kind of donors that either we already have relationships with or we are continuing to build relationships with, either through phone calls or reaching out to schedule meetings. That includes individual donors, unions, so on. And then the director donor mailers is what we mentioned a little bit earlier about we built up a pretty strong director donor mailer program this year and are planning to continue it next year and potentially grow it a little bit more too. And that dues number is we are going to be bringing back committee dues. So we look forward to everyone supporting the party. Please go to the next slide.
I have a couple more on here, but I'm going to talk about these. So we have some offset income scheduled just to offset expenses we know we'll be having as a party, and then our unsolicited donors. While this fluctuates month to month, we have a pretty good idea of what we will raise throughout the whole year, and then revenues from our online store getting us to our grand total mentioned in the previous slide. Andrew, any other notes on the revenue?
Nope, y'all killed it.
Getting into the not so fun stuff, spending all that cash. So some administrative expenses here related to our office space. You can see we have just various things, the rent, staff parking, phones, internet, liability insurance is always super critical. These don't fluctuate too much year to year, and our rent expenses are actually going down fairly significantly as we renegotiated our lease this year. So it's always fun to save a little. We have two consultants to note. The Elias Law Group is actually comprised of all of the political lawyers at Perkins Coie. In September, they ended up leaving Perkins Coie and forming their own law group. So we have decided to stick with the experts. And then Wild Bronco is a communications consultant that we will be continuing to work with. On the data and tech side of things, so We have our voter file updates that we have to continue getting regularly, and we have NGP VAM, our compliance and digital software. And we've added this year switchboard texting, which allowed our finance team to utilize direct to donor text messages to then link to our ActBlue. And then uptime and equipment acquisition is a Brenner thing he can talk about, but essentially it's just keeping our server up and running so that the voter file doesn't crash. Some subscriptions related to our ability to work. As you all know, we're very Google heavy. Conference calls, we've been obviously relying on Zoom these days. Pretty self-explanatory. Moving into finance department expenses, Carrie, I don't know if you want to give any explanation here, but essentially we're able to estimate expenses related to either virtual or in-person events, BCG being the main expense there, but we raised the most revenue. And then our directed donor mail program, Carrie mentioned before, they'll be taking that in-house and working to continue to raise funds. And so we've estimated that the cost of sending those mailers at $9,000. Carrie, I don't know if I missed anything there.
I think that about covers it, and just want to point out that our expenses projected are actually a little bit lower than in years past, especially for the gala, just since we already have some deposits that we've rolled over from events that have had to be moved virtually.
One item to note on this slide, ASDC dues. So previously we had been having our dues paid out of the Dollars for Democrats DNC program. They're restructuring that program going into 2022. So instead of our dues coming out of those revenues, we're paying them directly. Then the rest are also self-explanatory. We're being a little bit optimistic here, anticipating perhaps more in-person central and steering committees so we can see all of your beautiful faces. We'll see how that goes. As Carrie and Randy know, we are always ready to pivot and move things virtual. And then our largest expense is always our human capital, so all of the staff. And through this year, we have really expanded our team and added very successful players. You all heard their updates earlier tonight. It is our pleasure to have all of these folks on staff. So we've estimated all of these expenses related to having these folks. Health insurance, as you know, it is something that's one of our values to ensure that our staff members have access to some of the best healthcare possible at little to no cost, mostly no cost to themselves. So that is a rather large expense, but we justify it because we're living our values here. Travel and engagement, we have budgeted this again with the mind that some things are going to be returning to in person. We have this ASDC meeting coming up in Charleston later this month. So we have amped up these expenses with the mind that perhaps we will actually be going places and doing things. And then next year, as we are moving into a federal election year, we will continue to maintain our savings account, transitioning out of a non-federal savings account into having a federal savings account. Only fun things. And then I don't know if anyone has any questions, Andrew, if I didn't touch on anything that you would like to highlight, but now is a time.
Elise, this is Sandra Grant.
Sandra. Elise, can you stop sharing really quickly just so that we can see if anybody has their hands up? Thank you. Sandra, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes. I saw under there that you had the income under revenue side for $35,000 for dues to come in from the local committees. Is there still going to be a deal like we used to have with local committees that if you updated your van and put all your information in, you wouldn't have to pay your dues, or are dues this time just going to be straight dues?
Yeah, Sandra, I can answer that. There will be a deal that if you're updating your van committee, then your van fees will be waived. And so we'll send out a little bit more about that. You know, like all that suggestions last year, they were waived for folks.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Zach. If you all have questions, just raise your hand if you're attending virtually.
Okay, so I had two questions. Of the Act Blue, which I think we said was 800K, about 40% of our current fundraising. Is that mostly small donor, or do we know what the breakdown is in terms of? So that's like mostly people donating under like $200, or yeah. And then my second question, that staff expenditure of 1.65 million, that assumes the same number of FTEs that we have now, or?
Yes. So the Act Blue number largely, and I don't know if Nick or if Carrie, you all want to speak to it exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's largely the digital program. The digital program this year really stepped up and like knocked it out of the park. For those of you all who don't know, we moved our program in-house and we hired Riley, which you all have we approved in the last meeting. And so we got rid of our email vendor and moved it in-house, and it's been super successful. So we've been able to raise that projection quite a bit. And so that is that attributes to the Act Blue number. And then secondly, yes, that's including current, everybody that's current. Obviously, that's the one that has the tendency to ebb and flow depending on what happens with, for an example, you know, Descada's salary sometimes goes over to the coordinator or goes over to a different place because of, you know, like as she moves like from cycle to cycle, or as we, you know, enter the year and as we're doing these listening tours and we get new ideas, likely if we get more ideas that will generally, you know, staff could be added, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, it assumes the same. Isaac.
This is just more of a question. If I'm not mistaken, so the party staff's under union contract collective bargaining now. And I'm not going to ask about year-to-year shifts. Is there any expectation that they might have wage or salary adjustments from collective bargaining that may not be reflected in this until later in the year, or until, because I don't know when that's re-upped. I was just curious.
So actually, we when I came in as ED a couple years ago, one of the things that we did when we did not have a CBA is that we tried to even out a little bit of some of the pay scales, and so to bring everybody kind of up to a same rate. And so this assumes this assumes everything current as is, because we're abiding by the CBA. Currently, our CBA has different type of staff. So senior staff is at a certain tier. You know, junior staff is at a certain tier to keep everybody kind of similar. I will say that this might change based on, you know, we always do like end of year, like, you know, like marginal, like, you know, raises, that kind of stuff, which we haven't done this year. But yeah, so, and I noticed how every person on staff just was like, let me take that note real quick. So.
I just want to make sure we're taking care of our good people.
Indeed, indeed.
Thank you.
Any questions on from folks attending virtually? Okay, Galen, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Are we ready to move to adopt the budget?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Next on the agenda, we have any announcements?
Thanks, Galen. I think the only two that we have right now are Central Committee will meet tomorrow at 11 a.m. We also have a Governor's Mansion reception on December 9th. You all should have received an invite to that. If there are any questions about that, please reach out to us and we're happy to make sure that you all have all that information. So we're hoping to see you in person on December 9th. And for all of our good friends at RPV listening, we'll be back in a few years. And so we look forward to having it back.
Great, thank you. Any other announcements?
Democratic Black Caucus tomorrow at 2:00. We'll have Vice Lieutenant Governor candidate Tala Ayala will be speaking, and we'll also have Corinne Charles Dungo from Senator Kane's State Director.
Great, thank you, EJ. Dave Blackman, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say, if any of your local committees and your CDs want to talk about alternatives for in-person votes, Ricardo and I just met with Ren from Madison, like right before this meeting. We had a pretty good discussion with him about his options and stuff. So Ricardo and I are happy to like advise on any of that, just so everybody knows.
Great, thank you so much, Dave. Maureen, you have your hand up?
Well, if Ricardo has a follow-up to what Dave said, I'll let him go first.
Okay, Ricardo.
Sure. I mean, just to echo what Dave said, and also just to let everyone know that I may need to excuse myself tomorrow. I have no idea how this will go, but my 7-year-old is getting his COVID vaccine. Yay. So, but it's at around 11 a.m. So I'll try my best, but it all depends how the kiddo goes with the COVID shot. So anyway, yes, to Dave's point, if anyone has any questions about that, we're more than happy to connect and provide you solutions.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Maureen.
I was just going to offer, similar to Dave with tech support, if folks want to talk about plans to engage young people as we go into reorg, I think it would be really good to have intentional plans about how we're going to bring young people in, since this is going to set leadership for at least a couple years at the local level and then 4 years at the CD and state level. So anyone who wants to have a conversation with me or anyone on the Young Dems board, please feel free to reach out. Y'all know where to find me.
Great, Maureen, and I probably will want to invite our next chair's call. So that's something I was going to invite you to talk about that. So thanks so much. I appreciate that. And then anyone else? Did anybody have a hand up? Okay, great. Well, I have a funeral to attend tomorrow, so I may not be on the whole time early on, but I hope you all have a good meeting and you all have a happy and healthy.
Galen, we need a motion, Galen, to adjourn.
Oh, I am.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'm wishing everybody a happy and healthy holiday before we adjourn.
I'm sorry. Look, I tell you something. My apologies.
We have to do it officially.
He gonna cut
Yeah,
my.
good. I think we were really too ready.
Have meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Second
All
and
right, thank you. Second, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Everybody, bye-bye.